Unscripted.
Unshackled.
Uncouth.
What you're about to hear is for mature ears only.
It's Miguel Fuller.
I would show anything. I'd show my hee-hee and my hoo-hoo and my ha-ha.
Holly O'Connor.
Hey, Daddy, you want to take this to the bedroom?
And Scotty the Body.
I am officially not only the grill daddy, but I'm a hot grill daddy.
Oh, wow.
It's the Miguel and Holly Uncensored Podcast.
Only from Hot 101.5. Tampa Bay's new hit music.
Hello and welcome to Miguel and Holly Uncensored.
Hi.
The podcast we do on Mondays, sometimes on Wednesdays, and on Fridays. It just depends.
Just depends.
Holly, what's wrong?
I just saw that you put my Twitter post on Instagram. So now all day long I have to have people come for me.
Oh.
It's fine. I'll have it. It's fine.
Wait. But you made that hot take. I thought you were like standing near it.
I am, but I wasn't prepared for it on Instagram.
You don't have to respond.
Twitter is a different beast. There's not that many people on Twitter. Instagram, now
Wait.
I feel like I gotta actively go to battle.
Holly,
No.
it's literally about grilled cheese and peanut butter and jelly.
You would think. Apparently, I punched everyone's grandma.
I mean,
Well.
listen, you let people get mad. The reason why I like to put those type of hot takes and not something like political or crazy.
Oh, well, we're not gonna do that.
Right, because people
God, no.
people need something to bitch about. That's
Heck yeah.
not like earth changing or life changing. Like if I was like, hot take, Holly thinks.
Oh.
Well, here's
Fill
what's
in the
nice.
blank.
Here's what's nice. In this instance, I am very glad to give something. Let me restart. In this instance, I am glad to be someone that everyone can unite against. If I can do that for people, let it be that.
And it's over something fun. Like it's not anything like,
Well, but that's the thing. I don't think some of these people are having fun.
well, girl, some people just when they're
Yeah.
online, you look at stuff, like especially on Twitter when I look in the afternoon, and like it's the podcast, so this is way too much TMI. But I've talked about how I look at adult material on Twitter now.
Yeah.
And so like sometimes I'll get on Twitter, and I usually like will first go to like the little search button, and because I have a few accounts I follow, and then I'll like look at like what's trending. And then sometimes I'll get lost in that and then totally forget the whole reason why I went to Twitter.
Yeah.
And just looking at people's takes on stuff and just how they just go after each other.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm super fascinated by this over like the most mundane things.
I know, it's real crazy. Like that's what we're living in, this crazy divisive era. And I'm just like, I'm not here for it.
Right.
I'm actually just going to ascend above it.
There you go.
And that's what I did. The only thing that I'm like, that's good. I'm glad you did put it on Instagram for a show perspective. But for a personal perspective, it's difficult for me sometimes to separate people that are like coming for me from like, okay, I know they're sending negative energy my way, but
Right.
I don't need to take that on.
Right.
Ah.
And here's the thing, like with like the Miguel and Holly Insta, don't look at it for the rest of the day.
There you go.
Like just don't. And like,
Yes.
I don't know if you're able to, but like there are just some days where I just have too much of like real life that is
Yeah.
occupying my mind that I'm like,
Absolutely.
you know what? Because I forgot, there's something we talked about recently where people were sliding up in my DMs like all throughout the day. And I was just like, you know what? I'm glad I gave you something like to be mad about, but I do not have the mental bandwidth, emotional bandwidth to take this on.
Right.
So I'm just going to like heart a couple of messages and then move on with like
Okay,
real life
This
stuff.
is a good test for my boundaries because what I want to do is to like take people's hurt away. Like I want to go into every comment and be like, I'm really sorry that I've offended you with this. It's not personal. I don't have a nostalgic tie to peanut butter and jelly or grilled cheese. And I want to like make people feel better because I can feel that I've like raised some hackles. I don't need to.
Yeah, it is about a sandwich.
I mean,
I don't need to.
No, and when you get down to like what our job is, like we're supposed to cause communication.
Yes.
And like that's one of the tenets of what we do. Like our show sort of transcends that, where we then try to do that for you. Like when we are in the place to help and to talk it out and to dig deep and really figure it out.
I have this really this unbridled burning desire to be understood.
Right.
And obviously that's triggering that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So because I want people to understand where I'm coming from, but mainly
I
they're
do.
just like, I'm disappointed in you. I think you should delete your account. You should whatever. And like, I know they're saying that as to be funny, but like, sometimes I'm like, huh, oh God,
Mhm.
like I really hurt some people, and I don't like to hurt people.
When we were talking about it on the air this morning, and I can always tell, I always have to make that conscious decision on like, how do I handle this? Because like when you did it for your radio blog,
I did.
and so like our radio blog segment is supposed to be like 4 minutes. If you're on our YouTube channel, you can 4 minutes.
4.
So 2 for me. It's how it was constructed. 2 minutes for me, 2 minutes for Holly. Which, by the way, I often get on my Q&A on Instagram. People will be like, "Why doesn't Scott do radio blogs?" And I'm like, we barely have time to squeeze both of us in, and sometimes we don't. Sometimes one of us, whoever goes first, will go too long, and then we'll just have to be like, "All right, you only get one radio blog."
Yeah.
Like I've often thought about maybe like switching
Alternating?
it up where it's like one day it's me, one day it's you, one day it's Scott.
I thought about that too.
But that's something we can talk about, moving forward.
I thought about like if I feel like my blog isn't strong, tossing it to Scott and just being like, "What you got?"
Right. And
Anyway.
that's something we can do. It's something we can talk about as a show, and I'm okay with it.
Anyway.
But like today when you brought that up, and I was like, well, the reason why people were mad is because they hold fond memories for grilled cheese and peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah.
So when you said your hot take was that, what did you say? Like throw them.
I would rather have neither.
Right.
Please get them out of my sight.
And-
Which, by the way, I didn't say go F yourself if you like these. I want to make that clear. I
Right.
said I don't like
messed
them.
up.
Please take them out of my sight. That's what I said. That's
Right.
what I said.
And so that's part of you, Holly, where you sometimes aren't good at taking jokes because
No.
you think like you're not a surface person at all.
No.
Like literally there is nothing surface about you, which is not bad, that's what makes you so different from 98% of people on the radio is because when you speak and you feel, you're not faking it. You truly, truly feel it.
Well, I'm not going to say it if I don't think it for real.
Whereas like a lot of people, like I've heard some radio people who they'll be like, I got a hot take, and they don't believe it at all, but they're saying it just to be controversial.
Oh, to get a rise.
Right. And they
Yeah.
say it, and then they sit back and they're like, all right, let's see all the bombs go off. But when you say it, you truly feel it.
Right.
So there are some times, like this morning when I was explaining, why people felt that way, and I could see that you were like, oh my God, I really hurt people's childhood feelings.
I switched gears because I
You
was
did.
like,
I saw it in your face and in your voice, and I was like, oh shit.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. But that's what makes you great at your job is because you truly feel that.
Yeah. I really like after you explained that, because I truly was in a position of like, I didn't say you shouldn't like it. Like,
Mhm.
why are we even disagreeing? Like, I knew it was controversial because I saw how strongly people wanted to pick one or the other.
Mhm.
So by saying I didn't like either, I figured people would be like, oh, snap. I didn't figure people would be like, delete your account. You're a terrible person. And so when I felt that, I was like very confused. And I was like, but I didn't say anything to you.
Yeah.
So I was confused. And so then when you said like I was just actively hurting people, then I was like, I should delete my account.
Oh.
I should just. And then I started apologizing. I'm like, I'm
Right.
so sorry that I hurt you with my
Mm-mm.
opinion.
No.
Sandwich.
It's a sandwich. But that's
They're very
that's
good.
the problem. Like in my mind, I was like, it's a sandwich. But people were like, that's my entire life, and you've crushed me. And I'm like,
Oh.
I'm sorry. I'll take both.
On
eat
top of
them.
each other.
I'll eat them together.
Ugh.
I don't-
Actually, it might not be bad. Cheese and the
Mhm.
jelly and the peanut butter.
And see, but I think that's what's so funny about like that's where you and I sort of are different.
Right.
Where we both-
thank God we are.
Right. Cause like I feel it like you feel, but then there's also that defiant part of me that's like, bitch, this is my opinion. I'm not coming up in your house slapping the grilled cheese out your mouth. If I don't want to eat it, I don't want to eat it. So what? Fuck off.
Yeah. Like if I feel like I have caused you harm in any way, it harms me.
No, not me. I'm like, cry harder.
No.
Right.
An evil
harder.
bee.
Oh, I
as,
know.
As a
Damn.
quick side tangent, this is why I really suck at the punishments in headphone karaoke when I have to dole them out to others. Like, for example, we had the shot roulette. Roulette. What?
Mhm.
Shot roulette.
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 That's not the right word. Shot roulette. And we all had to pick 2 different liquids for other people to do.
Mhm.
So my person and I were at Publix, and I don't know what he said. He said something that was absolutely abhorrent. Like, he was like, what about, I can't remember what it was because my brain probably blacked it out. Let's just say it was like the hottest hot sauce or something that could probably like make you nauseous and like throw up. He's like, you could do that. And I was like, no, I can't. He's like, but the point of this is like, you have to make them uncomfortable. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't want to. And he's like, no, but people are going to be like, why didn't you go harder? And I'm like, I don't think you understand. It actively hurts me to put someone else in pain or discomfort. So like, I'm bringing in things. They're not terrible.
Right.
But like,
Like
the
orange
thought
juice.
of giving you something like truly terrible that could potentially make you vomit.
Right.
I would just rather say, I'm sorry, I'm sitting this one out. I'm gonna be the fun ruiner. I can't.
Right.
Gosh.
And that's okay. And that's who you are. But then that's my job to sort of,
I know. Thank you.
understand that and make sure that it fits and allow time for that.
Right.
But that's why this morning, like, I
Oh.
didn't know that you were going to react like that. And I was like, oh, we ain't got time.
I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry. No,
I'm
you're
sorry.
fine.
Now
You're
I feel
fine.
sorry about. Now I'm like, I shouldn't have said
Oh,
anything at all. But you know what? I'm glad I did because sometimes I can have an opinion too.
Yes.
And it can be
You-
controversial.
No, not sometimes. You can always have an opinion and it can
Ah.
be controversial. That is okay.
Ah! Just I just write down some things to talk to Maureen about.
She's like, let's just. Speaking of, Scott, you've been going to therapy.
Yes.
I have been, yes.
Please
How has that
share.
been going?
It's been going really well. I've been having a lot of cool moments of just like, I guess, realizing like what I could do in little steps and understanding like what actually helps. And honestly, and somebody's just asking me about like, do I find it beneficial? I was like, yes, because I wanted somebody that was that had no idea who I was, no idea about my life, and I could just talk about.
Yeah.
I could talk about openly. I could just say anything I want, and they have no idea who I am. They're kind of getting little pieces of me, but then, there's a couple things that I get a better understanding of, which has been really cool, like layering. Like I even explained to it, and it made so much sense. I was like, I'm kind of like an onion. Like if you just ask me a question, I'm going to give you an answer. Like, and I have no problem opening up. It's just you got to ask the second question. And then it's like the third, and then I dive in.
Right.
And then you get me going.
Yeah, that's what
And-
you've said. And it makes total sense to me.
It makes so much sense when she was even explaining now this is how you can start understanding your feelings with that and understanding like, why am I, doing a certain thing or acting out in a certain way? And something I'm starting to do, which is called like speed writing, where it's just I just write freely and openly and just like let my thoughts just go.
That's
Not
cool.
trying to construct it, not acting as if somebody's going to read it eventually. Just anything that comes to my mind, I'm right. It'd be happy, sad, angry, anything like that. And it's been really cool because it's just, I do it just kind of walking now. I'm like, I accept what I think. I accept like there's moments recently where it's like, there's just an angry moment. And usually I'm like, nah, I shouldn't be angry. But I was like, F this. Let me go ahead and down this route. Let me figure out where the root is. Like, why am I feeling angry? And I was layer by layer by layer. And I was taking that thought process and now I'm applying it to paper. But it's been really cool to have just somebody that's just honestly just there to talk and slowly get a little bit of understanding of my life and also give me a different perspective on like how I view things. Like maybe it's like I talk about something. She's like, that's really cool. And I'm like, oh, it is really cool. Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah.
Or like validating feelings that should probably be there. I think is a big one that I've noticed too, where it's like, you're freaking grieving. And I'm like, you're right. You're right. You are right. Okay.
Yeah.
Like
It
what
gets
you're
you out of your head.
yeah. And so that's been really beneficial to just kind of honestly just talk. That's the best thing is just to talk and have a space specifically for that. Cause the thing I've ran into a problem is like, I don't know what friends want to just talk about all the shit all the time, but it gives me a lot of time every week, 1 hour where I can lay whatever is out. That's where it's designed to do.
Yes.
And it feels much better versus like, well, should I talk about it? Should I not? It's like, no, this is exactly what that time's for. So
Talk about
it.
it.
So it's been really cool. And she gave me a couple little cool things. Like I realized like even like my relationship with my dad recently. And I'm like, wow, you know what? I didn't really talk about that. And now I really appreciate that I understand it now. Like, cool. That was cool to talk about. It kind of got me like emotional thinking about my dad. I was like, wow, I haven't thought about how our relationship has changed recently. I'm like,
What sort of way has it changed?
Well, it's just, I was talking to her about how, like, my dad and I, we're always close. Like, I grew up in a close family. Like, we didn't really have any problems, but my dad and I wouldn't be the ones to like talk on the phone per se. Like, my dad's not the one that I would go to and like get deep with all the time. Like, that was my mom. Like, I would call my mom like on a pretty much daily basis. Like, any problems, my mom. And I have a really, this is eventually going to be in my therapy sessions where I just have a comfort level with women. I just do. Like, if I go to I feel comfortable with just women doctors, I needed a woman therapist. I need, a massage. I want it done by a woman. Like, I don't know. I have that comfort level with it. And that's just how I've just always kind of been. And so now with everything, when I call my dad, and I've slowly watched how my dad's become, it's not just like my macho dad growing up. He was my coach, football team, all this, like these very macho things. He's become somebody that's so insightful that I can actually get deep with life and, open up about my feelings. And he opens up about his. And watching that transformation has been amazing because that's not, I wish it was more common for people to have that father figure of, I could talk openly about feelings. And it wasn't always like that. Like, I could always, like, my dad was a safe space. I never really fully utilized it, I guess. And he wasn't, I don't think, fully in touch with it either.
No, it doesn't sound like it, but he was sort of forced into it.
He was, yeah. I mean, over the past couple months, he's taken a deep dive into bettering himself. And I talked to my therapist. I was like, it's been awesome to watch because when everything happened, I know there's always a couple different roads you could go. And one of my scariest moments is like, I don't know how my brother's going to react. I don't know how he's doing. I don't know how my dad's going to react. All I can control is how I go about my things and just hopefully they're doing the right things. And my dad was the first person that actually took charge and like, you know what? I need this. I need to reach out and find different things to help me. And the person he's becoming is just phenomenal. And we're on like almost like a level field of like understanding just how to be good humans, I guess, like taking ego out of life, understanding the beauty, the presence of life. And to hear my dad talk about those things, I'm like, hell yeah. Like, you get it. Like, these are things I think all the time. Like, the beauty of a moment. Like, let's not think about too far ahead. Let's love this moment right now. Put our phones down, for example. Like, my dad used to be somebody like we would sit there and he would just be popping on his phone, like going, I'm like, Dad, like, get off your phone. We're chilling. He's somebody that's now starting to pick up on those things just from things he's read and things he's listened to. He's becoming this evolved man, which is so cool to see. And honestly, he's like becoming like one of my best friends, like my mom was, where it's like I could just call comfort. Because I used to call my mom, she'd be like, what do you want to talk to your dad? I'm like, I don't know. We probably don't have much to talk about. Now it's like, man, no problem. I'd call my dad, be like, all right, dude, what's popping? What are you cooking? What do you got going on? Here's what's going on with me. Even my single life. I even opened up to him yesterday about like my single life situation, like, who I like and those feelings. And that was really cool because I was like, well, this is something I would tell my mom a little bit and get a little insight. But I was like, yeah, well, Dad, this is happening. So it's been a crazy realization. I didn't realize how big of an impact it's having on me until I started talking about it last week with my therapist. And she kind of let me just dive down that layer by layer. And I was like, holy crap.
It's always there. It is always there, layer by layer. But it's sometimes really difficult to figure it out on your own.
Yes.
You need them to kind of nudge you.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about therapy, because when I first started therapy, I was like, well, you're just going to tell me what I need to know. And unfortunately, that's just not how it works. And that's not how they're trained. Like, I believe, and I don't know this, but based on my history with therapists, their job is to give you little pushes or redirections so that you figure it out. Because when you figure it out, it hits harder. And you're like, you have these aha moments in therapy, which, Scott, is what you've been talking about. Like these aha moments about not discovering your father, and he's discovering himself and in the process helping you. So it's like all these aha moments where you're like, and it's weird because it's like the information was there, but I didn't see it.
Yeah.
It's great.
But to me, that's one of the most important things about communication and learning about each other and listening.
Yeah.
Where it's like it was there all the time, but how much time do we spend on the surface of things? And so having that outside observer that can look at your life, and in like a small way, what Abe and I, or my fiance and I, are doing with our finances, where we have a person that we check in with once a month, where we get to sit down and talk. And like through that, I'm learning so many things about Abe and, how he looks at money and how I look at money and how we are now doing it together, and it's making us feel better to talk about it. Because at first he was like, do we really need to pay for somebody to like sit down and talk with us about money? Like, I don't want them telling me how to spend my money. And I'm like, they're not. They're just helping us understand our own relationships with it, and then how it affects us together.
Okay.
And that to me is what, like, having a financial advisor, like the place I'm going to, or talking to a therapist, and now you're understanding this relationship with your dad and with yourself,
Yeah.
and how you are changing and how we're always changing, is so important for us to continue to evolve as people, to understand each other, because that's that wall that's missing so much of right now in our culture, is that no one's listening to each other or understanding it. And it's so cool that now you and your dad are actually doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's been so cool to like just slowly watch it. Like, it's not even a second thought. I think it happens a lot even with friends or acquaintances. Like you think about the call, you're like, oh, do I want to make the call? Like, oh, what's the conversation gonna be like? If you hesitate. I love that it's not even a hesitation. I'm like, oh man, I'm driving. Let me go ahead and give my dad a quick call. And like just be able to just chat openly about everything. It's weird. It just hasn't always been exactly like that. And watching it now and watching how my family has reacted toward all the, the trauma that's happened in the past couple months, like the way my brothers reacted and the way my brother, my dad, and I have gotten closer and really learned to like lean on each other. I'm so thankful for that, because if it was any other way, it would just make this whole entire situation 100% way worse and harder. But the fact that we're actually like becoming closer and doing exactly what my mom would want. And I think about that all the time of like, that was her goal, is to bring the family together, and to see that we're doing that and getting good at it. Like that is pretty powerful to like even think about and talk through. So it's been very thankful that I actually took the step and actually doing it on a weekly basis now.
So glad for that.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I love that. God. I wish there were so many times that I could like get my family all into like one big therapy session just to be like, what the fuck is going through everybody's brain? Like, what is going on? And I think I'm like almost close to getting my mom to going to therapy and to talking about it. Like we've broached it a couple of times, and I'm just finally like, girl, it's time. Because you are dealing with everything that granddad gave you, that grandma gave you. And yes, we'd like to look at them and say that they were perfect, but they grew up in rough fucking times where no one talked about anything.
Right.
I mean, like now my mom is starting to tell me more stories about my grandma from back in the day. And as she's telling it, I'm sort of doing a Holly where the story is supposed to be funny, but I'm like, so that thing that we thought was funny that she was doing, that means something probably happened to her when she was younger that she's never talked about.
100%. I just find that everybody has all this trauma, unintentional, intentional, from when they were kids, that shaped them, that they may not recognize. But like, I remember when I was like young and I wanted my mom to tell me stories from when she was young. And like some of the stories that we would laugh about my grandmother, like I'm like, oh God, that was horrific. But my mom never even viewed it through that lens. Like there's so much trauma that my mom has, and I'm really trying, but like it does get harder the older you get, because you really have to unpack everything. So it's not like your mom's got an easy route.
No, not at all. And that's why I'm like, you can't just go one time,
No.
2 times.
Oh, my
a
mom
month.
thought that too. She's like, well,
Right.
I talked about it once. I'm good. I'm like,
No.
oh, sweet woman. Nope.
No. It is an entire process that you have to go through to truly let it sink in and to understand. Because once you get to one box, it's like sort of those Russian dolls.
Yes.
Where it's like you open one, there's another one. Open
Yes.
up, there's another one. There's another one. There's another one. There's another one. And it's like until you die, you'll keep doing that.
Yeah, and you have to keep unpacking all, like once you get through like one particularly heavy session of trauma or whatever, and you're like, oh my God, I came out the other side. And then you're like, something still is a little weird here. Oh, look at this. It's a whole nother thing.
Right.
It's exhausting. But it's worth it, because otherwise you end up in your elder years. Why do you think there's like a cliche of like cranky older people?
Right.
They've been through all of life and they probably have had no help, and they're just traumatized and they're pissed at the world. And why wouldn't they be?
Right.
And I was going to say, to your point of like getting your whole family in and, having a session and how therapy works. And also relating it to the culture that we're living in. We're not listening to each other. We're not hearing each other.
No.
But that's the secondhand part of it. That's the symptom. The cause is that we don't know ourselves.
Right.
We have no idea who we are. Most people, like, I feel like I'm finally, after, a while now, getting a handle on who the fuck I actually am. We don't know ourselves. We oftentimes feel uncomfortable with ourselves, or, have a negative self-talk about ourselves, or we're caught in the rat race and we're just not going to think about it. We go from waking up at work in the morning for work, and then we do our job, and then we go on social media, and then we get dinner together, and then we watch TV, and then we go to sleep. Like, at what point during the day did you actually talk to yourself, think about yourself, figure out why you're doing what you're doing?
Right.
And until individuals do that, how can you hear someone else?
Right.
I'm like, you don't even know why you're reacting the way that you are, but you're just out blindly reacting to stimuli.
I have a hope that our generation, as millennials and the younger Gen Xers, or the Gen Xers that are in tune with themselves,
because there are some.
We can start to change how we look at mental health and our lives, because so much of when you think about the last 20 years of American society, it has changed rapidly. The different generations, not a lot changed for a long time, where it's like, just thinking about like retiring, when my grandmother was born, there were no retirement plans. There were no anything. It was like, basically, you work until you die. Like, you work until you die. And then in the 50s and 60s, they were like, ooh, you can retire.
If you stay with one company for long enough.
Then you get pension
plans.
Get a pension. Oh my gosh, it's so great. And then companies did that. And then they were like, oh my God, we're working and then we get to enjoy it. But then most people did not have access to jobs with pension plans. And then you got the 401ks where you're supposed to do that. It's all on you. Where it's like, we in our culture, in our society, in our country, have put so much on the individual need and not said, hey, let's take care of us ourselves as a society to give you those moments to be able to like look at yourself and heal yourself. We are all about work, and we never take any time. Look at how
because our
expensive
success is measured that way.
Right. Well, and then when you think about what we place money on, like, we spend all this money on healthcare, on like the physical things that you can see. But then even if you have the best insurance plan, how much is it still to go see a therapist? Yeah, I'm sure it ain't $50. I'm sure it's more than that. No. And how many people have that extra income to be able to spend on a therapist every week? Because we all probably should be going to a therapist every week.
As it is, I can only do once every 2 weeks.
Right. Who can afford
out of
that?
Cost. And we have pretty good insurance. I think our insurance covers 60%, which is really good. Some don't cover it at all.
So it's just, the whole equation comes down to, what do we find important?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What do we care about in our society and our culture? And those are questions that we as millennials, as we are now about to turn 40, as we take powers or positions of power, we're going to have to grapple with and understand and see, how can we affect that change and put that into place to give everyone a starting point of understanding themselves. Because you can't worry about your mental health if you're trying to figure out how you're going to pay your bills.
Yeah.
You got to get the basics covered first before you can then worry about what's on the inside.
Yeah. Oh, I think that there's hope, though. I think it's happening.
Yeah.
I think there is an evolution happening. I really do. Just based on the amount of information that we can take in.
Right. No, it's
true.
true.
If you don't get sucked into the circling drain of negativity, which is easy.
That is easy.
But if you instead use it to better yourself, I think lots of people are waking up in that way.
God, I hope so.
I think it's happening.
Because I just sometimes look around and especially with just the history podcast and books that I consume, and it just feels like, God, we're moving at a snail's pace. But then I say, oh my gosh, I am just now learning about why this happens. So maybe the fact that this major broadcast medium is talking about issues dealing with racism or misogyny or anti-Semitism. Semitism.
It is.
Is it? Okay. We're talking about all those and putting in the open.
Mm-hmm.
We can learn from it and do better and be able to right the wrongs of the past.
Yeah. I think that the more people become aware of themselves and then aware of the world around them, those things almost start to just like take care of themselves.
Right.
Because the more, eyes open a person is about themselves as a human and how they fit into the grand scheme of all humans, it's almost like a no-brainer that, oh, of course those are important issues. It's the people who are unfortunately ignorant, those that are willfully ignorant, and those who simply just they're lost souls. That's who are perpetuating those types of tragic things.
Right. And they'll always be there. It'll never be a big utopian society where we're all kumbaya, my lord. Kumbaya.
Oh, okay, that's nice.
Yeah, see, now that's never going to happen.
Good though.
But we can always keep trying.
Yeah.
We can always keep trying.
Amen.
All right. Scott, what's your social media guru?
At Scott Tavlin, SCOTTAVLIN.
Holly.
Radio Holly on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, and I may not be on Instagram today.
There you go. Well, you did a lot of stuff yesterday. You said maybe today.
Maybe
no
today
need.
I don't need to go on the Instagram. But I just feel like I don't have to explain myself and make other people feel better.
I'm
Exactly.
eating a grilled cheese in defiance of you, Holly.
That
That's
actually
good.
sounds
You should. I'm so sorry if I made you feel
good.
bad about it.
You're not taking away my childhood memories.
I don't want to take it away. I just don't like it.
I wish I could have some bread today. That sounds really good.
Yeah, no, I miss bread.
My
You see, everybody got really pissed off about Gwyneth Paltrow saying how she stooped to a new low and ate bread during quarantine. And everybody was like, how dare you? And I felt that because, it does seem very elitist. But at the same time, I was like, I think she was just sharing a humanizing moment. Like, I get both sides. Anyway, that's all.
No, I understand. It's so hard to, because we obviously are putting ourselves, like I was reading this article. I was reading this article yesterday about Jeff Bezos of Amazon.
With the yacht, with the other yacht?
Girl, why did I click on that article? And then why did I click on another article? And I was like, this motherfucking, we all out here struggling. And he like, look at my yacht, bitch.
Yeah.
But that's his reality.
That's his reality.
He makes trillions of dollars.
Yeah.
And I'm out here just trying to put gas in my
But
car.
you got a
girl.
good haircut and a nice shirt on today. There you go.
Haircut. I'm getting another one tomorrow, but thank you. I appreciate it. My information is Miguel Fuller. Thank you for being in the Platypus Posse. Send me an email if you want some Miguel and Holly stickers. Miguel at hot1015tampabay.com. And please leave us a review on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen. It really helps. And leave us a 5-star rating. And we will see you on Friday.
Catch up with the previous episodes of the Miguel and Holly Uncensored podcast from Hot 101.5.
Just hit up the Hot 101.5 app, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.
Search Miguel and Holly Uncensored.